In this video, we're going to take a look at some things on the Home tab. In particular, we're going to look at the font group, which is everything in here. Most of this is probably familiar to you. It's pretty standard in lots of Windows applications. First thing is the font name, and I'm going to change the font on the entire spreadsheet, and one of my favorite fonts is Verdana, so I'm going to click on the down arrow here and come on and type the letter V, so it takes me down to the V's, and then scroll a little bit and there's Verdana, and it's 11 points right now. I'm going to change that to 10, and because I clicked here on this little triangle, everything in the entire spreadsheet was selected, so every single cell is now going to be formatted as 10-point Verdana. Okay, now if I want to increase or decrease the size, one obvious way to do it is just go here and pick something. Another option here is this will increase the font size, and if I click on that, it goes to 11 and then 12. And it skips 13, and the reason it skips 13 is because when I click on this button here, what it does is it just takes me to the next option on the list here. So it goes by ones for a little bit, and then it starts going by twos, and then you start getting some bigger jumps as you get further down the list here. So if you want 13, you're not going to be able to get it this way. You're just going to have to go right here and type it. And if I want to make them smaller, this does the same thing. It takes me back down the list. Let's go back down to 10 where we were before. Some other options here. If I want to make my headings bold, for example, I can click on the B here, or I prefer using the keyboard shortcut, which is just Control B. It's a toggle. If you turn it on and then click on it, and it turns off. So we'll leave them on bold. The italic, it also has a keyboard shortcut, Control I, and if I click on it, it's also a toggle. Turn it again, click on it again, it turns it off. The underline button is Control U, and there are some options here for underline. We can either do an underline or a double underline, and let's try the double underline here. And notice, let me click off to the side here, that the underline only underlines the word. It does not underline the entire cell. If you want to do that, you need to do borders. So I'm going to do a Control Z here to undo that. Okay, and now I'm back to where I was before. I've still got bold headings, but the italic and the underline are turned off. Okay, now this button here is for borders, and if you click on the down arrow, it gives you a bunch of choices. These probably aren't going to show up very well in the video because the lines here are pretty subtle, they're pretty thin. But you can read the description here and see what they do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select let's select all of my numbers here. Let's say I want all of my numbers here to be surrounded by a thick box border. Okay, I select them first, click on thick box border, and I'm going to have to click off of the data here to see what it looks like, and I've got a thick box border around everything. Now let's go back in here and take a look at some other options. Another option is, let's say I want borders around every single box. I can click on this, and you notice when you do that though, it takes off the thick outer border that I had before. So if I want a thin border on the inside of all the cells and I want a thick border on the outside, I have to do the interior border first and then go and do a thick box border on top of that, and now when I click off of it, there's a thicker box border around the outside. So you got to be careful sometimes applying multiple borders, or if you're applying different borders to adjacent cells. Let's go take a look at one more thing here. If you want to customize it a little bit, go down here to more borders at the bottom, and the Format Cells dialog box comes up, and it's got a bunch of tabs on it. The number tab is for formatting numbers, and it corresponds to this part on the Home tab up here. Alignment corresponds to this group. Font corresponds to this group, except for the border part, which has its own separate tab. And Fill corresponds to the bucket over here, and there's a button for protection here, which lets you lock or hide cells and protect them with a password. But all we're concerned about right now is borders, so let's take a look at how this works. First of all, you can do a bunch of different border styles, and you select what you want here, and you can also select a color. So let's do a green border. Notice nothing changes over here. This is my preview window. This is what it's going to look like if I click on OK. And since I haven't changed anything over here, when I click on OK, it's going to look exactly the same way that it does right now. So after you pick your color and after you pick your style, then what you have to do is click on the borders that you want over here. And if I want just the outer borders to be this green dotted line, I just click on the outside. The inside here is still a black thin line, solid line, so that's what I'll get. Let's go change those as well. Let's make those red, and we will leave them as a solid line, and click on this and click on this, and let's click on OK. My interior border should be a thin red line, and my exterior border should be that funny dotted green line. So you can go in there and you can customize as much as you want with borders. The thing to remember is that when you're doing borders here, what you get is what's in the preview window. Simply selecting something over here does not cause any changes to take place in your spreadsheet. Okay. And let's take a look at the fill bucket here. Let's say I want my column headings to stand out a little bit. I can go here and I can pick from any one of these colors here. Depending on the theme that you've chosen, that will determine what colors appear up here on top. Basically, you get one color at the top and then variations of that color in the column down below. These standard colors down here will always be here, and if you don't want any fill at all, you can choose this. If you're not satisfied with what you see up here, you can go to more colors, and you can either pick from something on this hexagon here, which gives you quite a few choices, or if you want all 16 million colors that are available, you can go over here and click any place on the rainbow and drag this arrow up and down. If you're familiar with the RGB color model, you can put any number in here from 0 to 255 for the red and the green and the blue component of the color that you want. So we didn't actually pick anything there, so let's go back here again and let's just do a light blue background, and there we go. And the last thing you can do in this group here is you can change the font color. Again, you get the same theme colors, you get the same standard colors, and you've got the more colors option down here. And let's just make let's choose green here, and there we go. The last thing on the font group is this little button down here, which is called the dialog box launcher, and it's called that because when you click on it, you get a dialog box, and this is basically that same dialog box that came up when we selected more when we were looking at the borders. And the only extra thing you really get related to the stuff in the font group here is these options down here. Everything else, the underline, the color, the font name, the font style, the font size, are all available directly over here. If for some reason you want to do strike through a superscript or subscript, this is the place to go to do it. And that takes care of the font group on the Home tab.